Good afternoon YouTube, and welcome back to Warwick Road. This will be the latest update. Won't be a long update. Haven't been up here much due to the hot weather, family life, holidays, etc. So I haven't had a lot of time up here. But I've done a little bit of scenic work, and from a previous comment somebody asked me if I could show them the whole layout. I was only showing it in bits when I do updates on specific areas, so I'll cover all that in this latest layout update. So thank you to all of you that have subscribed. Keep the comments coming, I really appreciate it, and I'll get on with the video. So one of the biggest issues I had is every time I filmed, whilst the content and what I was doing was okay, the biggest issue I had was lighting. It always seemed dark and dingy up here, which didn't really show off the layout as much as I'd wanted it to. So in the last couple of weeks I've decided that it is time to upgrade. So I've now upgraded to LED strips. So these are in. I've just got to sort out where I put the wire in. I think you can see from the previous video there's a huge improvement on the light quality. Especially on this centre section here. One of the main things I worked on over the last couple of weeks was trees. This layout, because it's in the sort of outskirts of the city, doesn't have many trees, but the trees I'd got were the woodland scenics, the large armatures, covered with the polyfibre and then covered in the knock leaves. But when I looked at the knock leaves, what they looked like is they were just far too big. Looked out a little bit out of scale, looked a bit odd. So my trees ended up looking like cotton wool puffs painted green with these huge great leaves on them. So what I've done is taken about half of the polyfibre off of each tree, really thinned it out, left the knock leaves on the trees, but then covered them with the woodland scenic fine turf, which I think actually gives a far better texture that makes it look more like a leaf. I did investigate before I did this, throwing all of the trees out and going for, on the online, certain companies do them, where they sort of hand make specific types of trees, but some of them were coming in at £12 and £15, and whilst I haven't got many, I just decided to give it one more attempt before I was going to go down that avenue. And I am actually very pleased with the result, because they now don't look like big puffs of green cotton wool. And with the knock leaves underneath, I get a more uneven texture, which is right for trees. So I'm going to make a few more of these. I've just got to get some of the armatures, but I'm happy with those. So in answer to a previous request, I will do a brief layout tour to explain different parts of the layout and also look at future plans. So this is just to fill in a corner. So there's scales, scenes, houses, and I think it's called Fair Price Models do the roofing, so that's like laser cut. roofing tiles, which give it a far better look. The scaffold I did myself using plastic strips, but the glue's got a bit brittle, so bits break off. So I think possibly a job for the winter is that I shall use some brass rod and solder it, so it's a more permanent fixture, paint it. So that'll be a job coming up for the winter. So I'll move on from the houses. So sorry if it gets a bit wobbly, but I'll use it by hand so I can get closer into the detail. So this is the first part of the town scene. So they are scale scenes, semi-detached houses, I think from the 1930s the kit is. So this is almost finished, really just replacing some of these figures that are the cheap Chinese 1/76 scale figures. You get them for like £5 for 20 or 30, so I'm replacing these with 3D printed figures. So it's just a case of working through. Again, these trees will probably go, and I will revert back to the armatures and the process that I've just described earlier. 3D figures, see that guy cutting his grass back there. I've actually got a bespoke 3D printed figure of a man cutting his grass. That gap you can see there is, all of these top scenes are removable, so as that in the winter I can go and mess about, update them, change things around when it's too cold, or in the summer it's too hot to come in the loft. Moving on, this carries on. Again, another scale scenes house there I've worked on. Gardens there. I've got to do the back scene because I don't have a lot of height. You can see there's not a lot of height. I'm going to hand paint and carry on the back scene right the way along. So just that gap there I need to do. So up in this corner it's a little bit dark, but when I get the additional lights I've got on order, I'm going to get a 4-foot light, which will go right up into this corner and improve the lighting. This corner here where the digger is, I've got to work on that because I very poor measure in there. But again, something I can just drag down from here and work on during the winter. So from here, going to my left, all of these buildings at the back are Metcalfe, and I'm going to take measurements and I'm going to look to scratch build my own town scene. Whilst these are good kits, I'm not knocking these at all. I just want something that's unique to the layout and not something that I can look up and buy. So I thought about initially purchasing a cricket machine, but they're really expensive, and I think for what I want to do, it's probably used for a little bit of time and then it's just going to be put away and not used, which would be an awful waste. So I'm going to do it just in card. Again, I'm working on a back scene there, but that's quite a difficult one because of the perspective. So I might go out when I'm out and about, days out, look at, if I see a perfect street scene that I can get some pictures, I might print something off and put it on the back there. So this is the first town scene. There is a second one further around the layout, but again this is removable. Where that lorry is, just pulls out and can be worked on. This is the entrance to the TMD. I've done some work, just a couple of bits, adding some sleepers that are missing, But the main thing to do now is trying to find decent images of close-up images of TMDs, because obviously they're restricted areas. There's not a great deal of content that's useful for me, so I'm trying to have to figure it out. How much stuff? I don't want to crowd it with stuff, but then like this, it doesn't look like it's really being used. So just work on it. This building's the scale scenes, but I've got some moisture on the top, so I'm going to use some plastic card strips, paint them and put on the top there, because it's about the third time I've done that. And the only thing with the scale scenes kit is this one, I didn't put any varnish on the top to protect it from moisture. So in the back there, I've just got to fill in maybe hard standing, not all ballast, and then a fence separating the back of the TMD from the line there. And then I need to dirty up these stones a bit more. They've been there a long time, and I need to just make them look like they've been there a long time. Water and growth. I think the network rail yard's finished. It's only a small yard. I don't think it needs anything else, and it becomes too cluttered otherwise. So I'm really happy with that. Moving across to the warehouse. Again, Metcalf kit, and again, possibility that I may maybe not scrap it, use the footprint of it, but build a different, more modern looking warehouse. So my Jaguar Land Rover dealership, that was scratch built, that's lit. Just got a couple more details to add to that. A couple more people looking around these expensive cars. But really pleased with this. This was the third attempt, but when I put the lighting on in there, it looks really good. So it's fully got a full interior in there, so I'm really pleased with that. And there's the latest delivery of new cars. One area that was lacking was this down ramp from the upper level. There was gaps in there because of just the way I'd measured it. But I actually worked on this the other day and finished it off around the corner. So I've got a little relay station in there, like mobile phone mast. Open reach guys there, and his boss is there. This is the latest Oxford die-cast Ford Ranger. So that just finished that little bit off nicely. There was a gap there, I didn't know what to put in it. So, something you will see, telephone mast. So I put that in there. Then working round to the pub. A few more details added there. Churchyard. So this little seafoam tree is going to come out, and I'm going to do like a medium size one of my new style of tree. This station, this part of it is finished. Again, figures, just changing them over. McDonald's. Again, that's all done. Side of the station, I've just got to add some detail. Guys, men and ladies having a bite of this choke and puke. Rubbish. A couple of bins, maybe a couple of those plastic chairs where people sit down. Across at the back, details adding some of those signage. I think it's see it, say it, report it, something like that. And just some more figures, 3D printed, and get rid of these this type of figure. Those are the sort of help points. And then I've got to look at things like cable trunking and all of that, and detailing back there, the wall, because that should be filthy. Up here, huge area missing there, so again that's more trees all the way along here. You get thick coverage around there. It's a bit sparse in places. Main Street's finished. Maybe another vehicle. No more figures. I think I've got enough figures on there. And round the back, this dust cart is a Carrarama 172 scale, which is all I could get at the time. But now that Oxford have released their version, that will be replaced. And then just someone standing watching this guy repairing his car. And again from the back, the trees, there's one there. And I think these seafoam ones, I'll thin these out, not get rid of them, and add some of the bigger armature trees, especially at the back there. I want a couple in there. And then just some rough ground. But thinning the trees out has a benefit of allowing me a better view of the layout. It's perfect when I'm running trains. That's a much better view. Before it was all clogged up with trees. Well, I get a really nice view now. And again, you can see with the reduction in the trees, I've got a much better view of the trains moving around that corner. And I saw the layout Heaton Lodge, and he does a lot of tutorials on there when he's explaining how he does things on his layout. And one of the things he said, if you're not happy with your static grass or anything, just go over it, and that's exactly what I've done here with lots of different static grass, polyfibre, scatters. So it's given it a real rough, overgrown look, which is exactly what I wanted to do. Obviously moving around this side, this is the newest part of the layout. The container yard I did a few months ago have an idea of ripping this all up, the container yard, but then I was struggling with what to put in there. I was thinking just to put another road and some houses, but I'll leave it for now. Really not sure, because it's not wired up. I don't really use the tracks in there, but that's just a case of I don't run many trains, so I need to get up here and start running more trains. But if it doesn't work, then I will maybe consider taking it up, starting again with something else. And this is my favourite view, just looking down. I'd always wanted something with 4 tracks, which I've got on the other part of the layout, but 4 tracks running next to each other was really what I was after, so I was fortunate enough to have the space to do it. Now, I did try TMD here before, then I tried carriage sidings for the EMUs I've got, but nothing seemed to work out, so in hindsight I'll probably leave this as it is. Once it's detailed and the concrete standing is weathered, it will look a lot better. So we come now to the main station. Now this is all fixed down at this end of the layout, but I am considering this is scale scenes platforms. Obviously you can make them to whatever size you want, but I do like the look. I think it's Bunter's Yard with the MDF, but The problem is the size is too wide, and I don't want to spend a lot of money on platforms having to then cut them up and maybe lose the effect of all the great detailing he's got on them. So it may be something I have to look at, and maybe I'll use the Pico platform edging and do it that way, and then make my own tops. But again, a lot of these figures have been replaced with 3D printed figures, so every once in a while put something on the TV, get all my paints out and just sit for a few hours and just paint figures. But as you can see, the lighting here isn't great because it is the only part of the layout that hasn't had the new LED strips, but they're on their way. So this is the main station building again, all scale scenes, because you can kit bash it, do it to your own needs and dimensions. So they're very good for that, and quite robust, to be honest. So this is the main station. So again, Scale Scenes pub. That is a Kingsway Models. So I think it represents Balham Station, but obviously I've just changed the signage. Metcalfe, that's a small hospital, but I've made it into like a little bus station there. So all this needs is some vehicles. Bicycle, I've got to get bicycle stand right up in the back there. Apologies for the light, but this is the leisure park. All the stores in there. Unfortunately, they don't make any. I can't get these kits anymore, so I wanted to add one more on the side there, but they don't work. This is also a Kingsway medal. I think this was a Little Chef. I've turned it into an American diner. This is a classic car, repair, restoration, with a wash, we call it the sort of mobile wash, not mobile, anyway, wash facility for cars there, and a small classic garage, forecourt. So moving on from the classic car garage, got a Parcel Force Royal Mail depot. Just a few workers' cars and maybe a couple of girls walking around. Maybe sort of a smoking shelter. This will be a bus depot, small one. And then behind you can see where the two outer tracks coming from the top of the layout go back on themselves, under the scenics, and back out again up by the container yard. So that's all for today, just a quick layout update. I hope you enjoyed what you've seen. If you do, please like and subscribe to the channel, it helps. But I hope this little tour shows you what Warwick Road's about, what I've done and what I plan to do. Any comments, please feel to add them. I reply to everybody. Again, thank you for your patience, thanks for watching. Happy modelling, and I'll be back as soon as I've got something worthy of putting on a video. Thanks very much. Bye bye.